Hello and welcome to Rotted Reviews, and it's time to take another Rotted request, this time from patron Kathryn, who asked me to take a look at the 2019 movie Snatchers. Now, before I get into this review, I do want to just point out that this Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be having a celebratory New Year's Eve annual wrap-up of 2021 live stream happening on YouTube. Check that out if you'd like. I'd really love to see you there. So when I asked Kathryn why this movie in particular, she responded, "It's funny as fuck."
Now, who can argue with that? Love it!
I mean, really, good enough. So I went ahead and I checked it out, and what I found was a little bit of a hidden delight. This movie was written and directed by Steven Seeders and Benji Kleiman, and this appears to be a bit of a passion project for the both of them. You see, this started out in 2015 as a short film, and then in 2017 it appears that it made a 7-episode little brief web series on the now defunct Go90 platform before finally getting their opportunity to make their feature-length motion picture. And I have to admire the level of passion that has to go into pursuing a project to that degree of making a short film, making a series, and then finally getting the opportunity to make your movie. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it will make for a good movie. A lot of times short films fall flat when they actually get stretched out to an hour-and-a-half long runtime. Is that the case with the 2019 Snatchers? Well, before we get into that, let's get into what this movie is actually about. So this movie primarily follows the high school senior character of Sarah. The fall semester has just started, everybody's back for the summer, and she is doing pretty well. She's hanging out in some popular circles, and unfortunately it kind of looks like she may have left some old friends behind in that pursuit of popularity. But nevertheless, she's trying to put her best foot forward as this new semester starts up, including trying to reconcile not being with her boyfriend anymore, who just came back from a summer in Mexico. There seems to be some sort of estrangement going on between them, centered around, well, her reluctance to have sexual intercourse. Some peer pressure, along with his rockin' new tan, convinces her that maybe it's time to give this a whirl, and a whirl they do give it. And where this movie turns from a rom-com into a horror-com is when she wakes up the next day and she finds that she is 9 months pregnant. Moreover, when she does give birth in short order, it is not to a human being, but to a murderous, mischievous alien creature. I'm not gonna lie, this is a movie that had a whole lot going against it. This seems like an interesting, fun little concept, but again, whether or not it can actually be fleshed out from a short film to a full-length motion picture, well, that remains to be seen. And we're also dealing with some tricky subject matter that, if not dealt with delicately, can seem a little bit, well, insensitive or ham-fisted, or any number of ways that this can go from a funny, romantic, character-driven storyline into pure trash. And I am pleased to report that Steven Seeders and Benji Kleiman managed to avoid all of those pitfalls. This had some fantastic characters to it, the performances were spot on, the humor was cutting and biting, while at the same time not being afraid to get a little bit slapsticky and just having some fun, and at the same time managing to have some pretty impressive creature effects. The sensitive topics that this movie dealt with in terms of consent, peer pressure, abortion, all manner of things that can be really tricky, I think it dealt with a really deft hand. It didn't ignore them, nor did it bring them to a full-on place of levity, but it still managed to put them on the table, address them, have a bit of humor about it, and still manage to be sensitive towards them. That's a tightrope walk that is tricky and a half, and I know that that's not going to play for everybody. Everybody has their own level of sensibility, and that's okay. If this movie crosses your lines, there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, this felt like it tickled my funny bone in just the right way, and it didn't feel exploitative or cheap. One of the trickiest aspects of bringing a short film to a full length is the characters. It's the kind of thing where I know I've discussed it on this channel before, I apologize if I seem like a broken record, but a short film can get away with just having a concept, a quick little jump scare, a fun little moment, end credits, perfectly fine. But for a movie, you actually need to have some story arcs, you need to have some conflict, you need to have some resolution, you need to have some growth. Well, not all the time, but it helps a great deal. And the thing that drives that narrative forward more than anything else is quality characters. And this movie managed to bring them to life in a very real way. Yes, they were a bit vapid, but they were also teenagers. And I think that for writing teenagers, this came across remarkably well. I believed in them, I believed in their conflict, I believed in their struggle, and I believed in their friendship, which was a big selling point. This actually had some interesting coming-of-age moments with it, with self-discovery and reflections of sins past, as well as, opportunities of the future. And getting back to the creature effects, because this is a horror movie channel, and I'd be remiss if I didn't bring them to the spotlight a little bit, this had some remarkable vision to it. I think this knew when to employ practical effects and when to employ CG in the perfect ratio to make things believable, but still have an interesting close-up screen presence. The designs themselves were fantastic, and I found that inner creature feature lover in me just tickled pink. I had never heard of Snatchers until Kathryn recommended it to me, and I am extremely glad that she did. This movie isn't going to be for everybody. It is a bit juvenile, it is a little bit slapsticky, and again, it deals with some pretty sensitive topics in a manner that might not resonate with everybody, but I personally loved it. I don't think this really had any riotous laughter that had me reaching for the remote to pause because I was missing dialogue and trying to catch my wind, but it did make me smile to beat the band, and I did find very clever moments within. So if you're in the mood for a bit of a silly, a bit of a feel-good, a bit of a creature feature good time, I do recommend the 2019 movie Snatchers. Thank you so much for joining me here today, and thank you, Kathryn, for recommending this one to me. Remember, next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.